You know what that song means, podcast friends. It is time for another episode of What's Your Favorite Movie? The podcast that dares to ask the question, hey, what's your favorite movie? My name is Ed South, and I would like to thank you for taking this time out of your busy podcast listening day to dial us up and listen right here on What's Your Favorite Movie. Joining us in the studio today, it's somebody a little different. Another good old friend of ours has stopped by the studio. Folks, it's our good friend Kevin, KJ Anderson.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. South, for having me again in the beautiful, illustrious downtown Hanover studios of WYFM. The podcast, as you said, that dares, that has the audacity. It has the guts to dare ask, can we ask you, please, what is your favorite movie?
And you are bringing the energy to the studio tonight, and I appreciate it.
That's right.
And folks, real quick, before we dive into things, we're going to talk about one of our favorite directors. First, let's take a moment to remind you to join us on social media, won't you? You can follow the show on Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, where there's so many self-promotional posts on Instagram. Go ahead and share them with your friends, if you will. It'll point them to the show. It'll be a wonderful thing. Or you can send us an email at favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. Kevin.
Yes.
The last time you were here was almost a year ago. It was over a year ago. I forgot to look at what
30 episodes ago.
10 maybe. I was meant to look up what episode number it was, but nonetheless, last we spoke to you, you were a mere college student still in your journey through your adult college career. And now, diploma in hand.
Indeed. I have, in fact, graduated from college. I graduated, actually, almost a year ago in May at the tender age of 47. And I am very thrilled because it actually fulfilled a lifelong dream. And now I'm teaching high school because I have that precious degree.
Because you saw on a pinball machine when you were younger, stay in school.
Don't be a fool. Stay in school, Mr. T said. I pity the fool that don't stay in school.
I was going to say at your graduation, they did up on the screen in the stadium, they did at one point, the youngest graduate, and they showed, what was it, like some 13-year-old kid or Doogie Howser or something. Yeah,
some really young.
And then I scrambled to get my phone because I was almost certain that you were going to be the oldest, but not by a long shot. The guy was like 70, the guy that...
Yeah, I think it was like 68 or something. But, some of those people also are getting master's degrees. So some of the older people are not just getting their undergrads. So, I might have been the oldest in the bachelor's category. I don't know for sure. I know that when I went to a former school, I don't want to say the name of it, but where I first started school, not from where I graduated from, I was the oldest student in that school at the time. And had I graduated from that school, I would have been, at the time, the oldest person in that graduating class.
You would have been magnum cum oldie.
Oh, yeah. Very oldie.
So now you're teaching theater to students, to high school students,
High school students. I teach 9th through 12th grade. I teach drama, all aspects of theater, acting, history, the whole shebang, as we like to say in the industry. Now, if you're listening to the term, you have an insider. If you're listening to the podcast, you have an insider term, shebang.
Shebang.
So take that with your favorite movie.
And the school that you teach at is like they're kind of getting their drama department together, right?
Yes.
So there's no official spring musical as of.
Unfortunately, that's correct. As of right now, there is no springtime for Hitler yet.
Oh.
And, did I give it away what we're going to talk about already? Oh, well.
Well,
anyway.
they saw it in the title of the episode when they hit play.
There you go. Well, no. So it is a burgeoning program. The reality is that from what I've just learned recently from some of the students, I am their after 4 or 5 months of working there, I am their longest surviving theater teacher.
Wow, just like a movie when all the teachers,
it's a very interesting situation.
That's awesome. Maybe you'll do, if you could do any musical, Kevin, if you could direct any musical to your students, what would it be? Hello, Dolly?
It would not be, unless it was about that clone sheep, maybe. But aside from that, my music, honestly, I'm going to go off the list. I would say it's Fiddler on the Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Although there is a connection to the list we're going to look at, and I would ask you, Mr. What's Your Favorite Movie himself, what is that connection between Fiddler on the Roof and our own list of podcast
Did Zero Mostel star in the movie A Fiddler on the Roof?
Indeed,
and he is in the first movie.
He
on
did
my
not.
list.
He didn't star in the movie. He was the Broadway.
Okay.
The movie was an Israeli actor named Topol.
Topol.
And my understanding,
Not
is
to be confused, of course, with
Topol
Gigio.
or Topol Tooth Polish, which, of course, you older folks listening out there, the octogenarians who tune in.
I'm a big octogenarian.
Oh yeah. Well, when you look at your marketing breakdown you get from the podcast, you are. I noticed it myself, and you are in the number one category in the entire Mid Atlantic for the 80 and up crowd. It's great. Look, it's an accomplishment. But getting back to what I was saying,
it's because of all of my tweets with hashtag Golden Girls. Go ahead, Topol or Zero.
Topol was the movie, and Zero Mostel did the Broadway version. But yeah, the connection was Zero Mostel.
On movie podcasts, they will often resort to a director series where we're going to spotlight a certain director. This sounds like a lofty idea, but it really is a cover-up for not having a new guest to talk to. So we're going to kick off here on episode 42, I think we are, of this podcast, our director series, and we're going to talk about a director who's made many films that Kevin and I both love, and that, of course, is Mel Brooks.
Mr. Mel Brooks himself.
Because when I said to Kevin, what should we talk about? He said Springtime for Hitler, because it's springtime.
Because, hey, it's springtime. It just changed from winter to spring. It's the time of spring.
Right. A new awakening, if you will.
Right. Not to be confused with Awakenings with Robert De Niro as the awakened. Okay.
And Robin Williams.
Right.
And... So let's do some Mel Brooks. So we're just going to talk about Mel Brooks here and go down all his movies. We've seen almost all of them. We certainly love them. You know them.
I believe I've seen about 9 out of this list of 11. Maybe 8 or 9
It's hard to believe someone who's as prolific as Mel Brooks has only made 11 movies. Written and directed 11 movies between 1967 and 1995. So over the course of 28 years, he made 11 films. Some of these... huge classics. Before we jump into the list of movies that anyone could easily look up on the internet, a little history about Mel Brooks, eh?
Nice. Let's hear it.
He was born Melvin Kaminsky, June 28th, 1926. That puts him at 91 years old.
And grew up in the Depression era.
That's correct. Now, his name was Melvin Kaminsky. You know him as Mel Brooks. His mother's maiden name was Brookman.
So that's where the connection
must have been where he got Brooks, right?
I guess that's better than Mel Komsky or something, or whatever.
Kaminsky, which I guess is very Jewish sounding.
It's Jewish, but it's also Polish. Which in this country is, I don't know. People seem to like to make fun of Polish people, but here we have.
Well, when you're getting into show business in the 40s and 50s, you want to Americanize your name as much as possible.
Right, that's a good point too.
Yes,
stage name.
He served as a corporal in the army in North Africa in World War I.
Wow.
And diffused landmines before the infantry moved in.
Holy moly,
that's crazy.
I guess that's where he got that big sense of humor from.
It's amazing to think of. At one point in your life, you're in a war zone in North Africa, diffusing landmines, and 40 years later, you're a world famous millionaire.
Producer, writer, director. That's amazing.
It's insane.
That's truly amazing.
Before getting into movies, he wrote for television, most famously Your Show of Shows, which was an old sketch comedy show. Are you familiar with that?
I have heard the term, but I never saw
Carl Reiner, Sid Caesar, Imogene Coca. That show's kind of fallen through the cracks. He also co-created Get Smart. Would you believe that?
I did not know that, and I did not believe it until you said it.
And he's one of the few people to have an EGOT. You know what an EGOT is?
Yeah, I sure know it. I want it.
You want it. How many you got so far?
I have, let me see.
Ungots.
Of the 4, I've got, right. That's great. I'm an ungot. I got nothing.
An EGOT is, there's only like 14 people that have have had an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony.
Right, the big 4.
He got 3 Emmys for Mad About You. He played somebody's father, one of the two of them's father. I guess Paul Reiser's father.
Okay.
He has a Grammy for his album The 2,000-Year-Old Man, plus the soundtrack to The Producers.
Right.
He won an Oscar for the screenplay for The Producers, and he won 3 Tonys for The Producers.
Nice.
So The Producers brought it home for him.
Wow.
But
so out of all of his really great creations, and there's a lot of really good ones here on this list. The Producers is the one that really takes him, at least financially and from a technical standpoint.
Right. Well, also, The Producers was a movie and then later a play. So,
right.
Or was it a play and a movie? And
I
then a
think
play?
it was a movie first,
right,
and then they made it into a Broadway
play.
show.
Right. So his EGOT has spanned the years. It's not all just right off of The Producers. He was also married to the lovely Anne Bancroft from 1964 until her death in 2005, and she appeared in many of his movies. What is she most famous for? Do you know?
I believe it's creating the atom bomb.
Anne Bancroft?
Yeah. No, I have no idea. I have no clue.
I'm like, did she really?
No.
And this summer, he's still working.
What is she famous for, though? You didn't.
I didn't write it down. I don't know.
Oh, I thought you had an
She made
answer.
movies.
I thought you had an answer. No, I just thought she was a famous. But I thought she was a famous actress or a dancer or something before he married
I think
her.
so. I don't know. Shouldn't pose questions that I don't have my notes for. This summer, he'll be appearing in Hotel Transylvania 3, A Monster Vacation. So he's still working, still doing stuff.
Now, that's not related to Transylvania 65000 in
Unfortunately
any way, is it?
not.
Okay, that's
it's
a shame.
related
That's
to a
pretty
garbage
funny
dumpster,
movie.
actually. But we'll get into that.
Garbage dumpsters are wonderful, funny things.
So like I said, between 67 and 95, he made 11 films over the course of 28 years. Before we get into that, since this is What's Your Favorite Movie, real quick, Mel Brooks' favorite movies.
Nice.
Some of his favorite movies. 1936 Astaire and Rogers film Swing Time.
Wow, okay. Never heard of it.
Psycho, which he later parodied. We'll get to that.
Classic.
Some Like It Hot, a comedy classic. Singing in the Rain, Streetcar Named Desire, and Charlie Chaplin's City Lights.
Interesting.
So not
arrangement.
some surprising choices, classic choices.
Very classic.
What do you know?
Certainly things that affected him.
Yes,
in
later
his,
on,
life, yes.
which makes sense. So we'll start off in 67. His first movie is The Producers, starring Zero Mostel, the aforementioned Zero Mostel.
Aforementioned. Hashtag that right now. Hashtag WYFM. Hashtag aforementioned.
Aforementioned Zero Mostel. Do you think hashtag Zero Mostel has trended in the last
I
day?
wonder if there's ever been a hashtag Zero Mostel ever. I might have to do it tonight.
And Gene Wilder. Now, you've seen this film?
I have seen this film. I love it. It's really hysterical.
And tell them what it's about real quick.
Well, it is about a gentleman who is played by Zero Mostel, Mr. Bialystok, Max Bialystok, who is a producer. He's a Broadway producer. But what he really is doing is he's taking advantage of little old women who have a lot of money to invest in his plays. And instead of actually investing in the play, he keeps the money and he makes the play into a kind of a flop so that he doesn't have to pay them back. And basically that's his whole sort of MO is swindling little old ladies out of money in the guise of producing a big unsuccessful play.
And then Gene Wilder is like the accountant.
He's an accountant.
And he comes up with the idea, if you make a play that's going to undoubtedly bomb, you will make a fortune on the tax write-off.
Right. Well, for one thing, you're going to get all of this money from the women. They plan on getting, I guess it's maybe $1 million. They never really talk about the actual amount. But let's presume it's a big number like that. So they have to get it from all these different people. And so not only then they're going to keep the money, they won't pay taxes, the show will flop, and they'll get to write off that as well.
So the show they come up with is Springtime for Hitler.
Right. They look through a lot of scripts, and they find this one. They're looking specifically to try to get a failure, and then, lo and behold, they find a play titled Springtime for Hitler. So they go to meet the writer of that play, and he's a very interesting character.
Yes.
He's on the roof. When we find him in the movie, he's on the roof with his pigeons. Yes, his carrier pigeons. And he has a Nazi helmet on, and he's quite the interesting character.
Do you know who plays him?
I don't remember his name.
Okay. So, yes. So, the play Springtime for Hitler, which you spend a lot of the film actually seeing the play, is ludicrous. And I would imagine in 1967, people had not seen anything like this, considering that
Probably
Hitler was just in the rearview mirror. I mean, that was only 20-some years earlier.
Yeah, barely 20-something.
Years earlier that all happened. And then just to see this bonkers gonzo. I mean, I would imagine at this point in time in 67, it would be very similar to making light of 9/11 at this point in time.
I would say that's a pretty good
except
analogy.
that we're so used to everything being tasteless and out and crazy.
True,
so.
but at the same time, I find that the younger generation, because now that I work with them more, not only did I spend 6 years in college, so I spent a lot of time with these, with those kids.
Right.
Now teaching high school, I spent a lot of time with these kids, and between those two groups, I feel comfortable saying that they are all fairly easily offended by things like this, even though they're constantly inundated with things like this. So it's a kind of a almost like a weird conundrum. Like, you're offended by it, but yet it's still there. Who cares, right?
Right.
And the other thing is that, of course, with Mel Brooks movies, is that largely what he's doing is mocking.
Yes.
It's satire. So he's mocking society. He's mocking racist people. He's mocking dumb people.
And Hitler.
Hitler, of
he's
course.
Jewish,
yeah, of course. So, he's in no way glorifying any of that.
Well, he once claimed that he includes so many Nazis and Hitler jokes in his films because he wanted to make them both seem so ridiculous that their beliefs would never become popular again. Nice try.
I don't think that he succeeded, but good effort, yeah.
So, also in this film, William Hickey. Do you know William Hickey?
William Hickey.
Clock, get me a stogie. He's the old uncle. I can't remember his name. Uncle Lewis in Christmas Vacation.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's always like a gangster.
Oh, yeah.
Or something.
And he's really strange. Yeah.
Christopher Hewitt is in this. Mr. Belvedere.
Right. I do remember that.
Kenneth Mars, who is a character actor who pops up a lot in his films. We'll get back to him. And the wonderful Dick Shawn is in this as well. Are you familiar with Dick Shawn?
Was he the director? Was he the guy who played Roger, the director?
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember who he was. But that's the thing, is there's so many people in these movies that are so talented that it's hard to keep track of.
We got a lot of movies, though. We're going to move on.
Moving on.
The producers. You should see it. We're going to give almost all of these. We're going to say you should see it. The producers, you should see it. It comes up on Turner Classic Movies quite a bit. Then he did in 1970 The 12 Chairs, which is probably his most obscure film.
Yeah, that one was a new one to me.
It's takes place in 1920s Soviet Russia. A fallen aristocrat. I put cat. I typed.
Well, but you probably were thinking of the Cat Club,
Yes.
our Cat Club USA thing.
No, I was not thinking of that.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke for you and I.
Right.
Aristocrats.
Just try finding.
Did you ever see the movie The Aristocrats about the dirty joke?
I did not see it, but I would like to see it.
There's a whole segment in the movie. So there's a super filthy joke, and the punchline is The Aristocrats.
The Aristocrats, right.
And there's a segment in the movie where they talk about how often people blow the whole joke by saying The Aristocats.
Okay.
Because people are used to the
movie The Aristocats,
also
right.
1970. So
there you go.
1920s Soviet Russia, a fallen aristocrat, a priest, and a con artist search for a treasure of jewels hidden inside one of 12 dining room chairs lost during the revolution.
Wow. Okay.
I have not seen it.
That sounds interesting.
I had the video cassette when I was younger, and I never watched it, and now it comes back to bite me in the rear.
Yeah, no, I get that. But, my first question is, are these chairs all in the same room? Like, how does this...
I don't know.
Are they like, is it like one table with all these chairs around?
No, they're going out looking for them and
they
stuff.
have to go... So it's like Horcrux.
Wow.
How do you like that reference?
Yeah.
It's like a Horcrux. You go out and find it. Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Hey, here's
How do you
your
spell Horcrux?
Horcrux.
All right.
Alrighty. Hey, don't think that we here at WYFM, What's Your Favorite Movie podcast, aren't in tune with the kids today here, okay? I got all your Harry Potter references. I got them all right here.
I thought Horcrux was maybe like something a hooker used when she broke her leg. Anyway.
Let's see.
So this movie stars Mel Brooks, Frank Langella.
Oh, really?
You like the Frank Langella?
I love Frank Langella, and I honestly, let me just say, before we go any further, pound for pound, best Dracula ever.
Best Dracula?
I've seen several versions of people playing Dracula, and honestly...
When does he play Dracula? Where does he play Dracula?
He was in the movie Dracula. He's just like one of the versions of Dracula from the 60s was with Frank Langella as Count Dracula. Scariest thing you'll ever see in your life.
To me...
He makes Hannibal Lecter look like Little Orphan Annie.
Like Little Orphan Annie with a Horcrux. To me, Frank Langella, first and foremost, will always be Skeletor.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, that movie's so
How
good.
do you find the one role that these amazing actors do that's like the most offbeat
Skeletor. Skeletor.
Yeah, it's,
He was also in Frost Nixon. I saw that.
yeah, I didn't see that, but I really would like to.
12 Chairs, also the wonderful, great Dom DeLuise, who we'll probably get to later, but we'll move on. So 12 Chairs.
They used him to break the chairs so they could see.
I
what
don't
was
think
in
he
the
was
movie.
heavy then. He was a little lighter.
Yeah, well,
then.
even in the movie Fatso, he wasn't that big. So.
Right. He was big by 70 standards.
Right, exactly.
Never seen Fatso.
It's a very good. I cried,
very hard
actually.
to find
It's a
movie.
it
And
actually
Bancroft's in it, right?
Yeah. It made me cry actually when I first saw it because being a Fatso, I can understand where he was coming from.
Fatso is a film with Dom DeLuise and Anne Bancroft, actually, I believe.
Yes, I believe that's
It's a hard to find film. All right, let's move on from the 12 Chairs because nobody knows about that, nobody cares, and all you really want to do is hear us talk about his third movie, the great, wonderful Blazing Saddles from 1974.
Masterpiece.
Should we talk about it or just quote it for 20 minutes?
Let's do both. First of all, the movie is not worth watching in any edited version. I have to say that because you and I, there's certain movies that we really love more than others. And those movies, when they appear on television, are often cut to the point where it's just not worth watching. For me, example would be Goodfellas. Blazing Saddles is another one. Because of the nature of it, it's a little...
has some racial language.
It's a little forward in its language.
Forward, yes.
Yeah. It's a little unsavory at times, but it's making fun of those people. And that's where people get lost. And that's the genius of what Mel Brooks is doing. I mean, it's satire at its best. It's making fun of terrible behavior through humor. That's what satire is.
When it's on TV, is the N-word bleeped out?
It is usually either bleeped out. We talked about this with Smokey and the Bandit. Yes. I believe there's two versions
probably
of Blazing Saddles. One where it's just bleeped out. It's just, there's nothing.
Nothing, right. That's like the more modern version.
And then there's another one where they change the entire sentence to something like, there's some black brother coming down the street, instead of saying the N-word,
right?
Which is, the whole point of the movie.
Right, is to illustrate the ignorance of
racists,
other people.
of supremacists and stupid people.
So Blazing Saddles is a Western. The plot is completely irrelevant, although it does have a fairly decent story in it. But you got the great
Cleavon Little.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Fantastic. He was so funny. And he was also, I'll tell you another movie I really love with Cleavon Little, Once Bitten.
Once Bitten,
Bitten, when he was the assistant to the Dracula, the woman.
Hutton.
Yeah. That was so funny.
I haven't seen that in so long. That's such a good movie. Jim Carrey's first movie.
Right, Jim Carrey.
He's also in a movie called Jimmy the Kid, where you remember that?
Is that the one? Was that Gary Coleman?
Yes, Gary Coleman he plays Gary Coleman's dad, and he gets kidnapped, and Don Adams goes looking for him.
I can't believe I remember.
Pat Morita's in it.
Oh my god,
we've talked about it on the show before. It's such a great movie. Anyway, Cleavon Little, the great Gene Wilder,
fantastic.
Slim Pickens, fantastic. Oh my god,
who was also in Doctor Strange?
Yes, riding the bomb. The great and wonderful Harvey Korman.
Yes.
The absolute best. As, who do you play?
Hedley Lamarr.
Hedley Lamarr.
Hedley Lamarr.
Hedley Lamarr is a takeoff on an actress's name,
Hedley Lamarr.
Who?
Hedley Lamarr.
Hedley Lamarr. And she sued Mel Brooks.
Did she really?
I read that. She sued him because of defamation of character or some nonsense.
That's nuts. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Hedley Lamarr, wasn't she something to do with the A-bomb, or was that some other
What does it do with people, actresses inventing bombs?
What is that? I don't know.
Folks, leave us a message on Twitter. Who invented a bomb? Who's an actress and invented a bomb? First one to let us know will win a prize. Not really. Oh my God, I love Harvey Korman so much. Hedley.
Yeah, no, Harvey Korman was very funny, and naturally we can't, I don't think you can bring him up without bringing up the Carol Burnett show.
Right.
And all of the sketch comedy that he did with
Carol Burnett. Tim Conway.
Tim Conway, thank you. And Harvey Korman, in every one of these movies that he's in, and one of the other ones I love with him is the High Anxiety one we're going to get to eventually here down the list.
Right.
He just has this way of, I don't know, it's a very hard thing to describe. He was so good at just being this straight man character, the straight character of...
He was like the straight man and the...
it's
comedian.
amazing.
Yeah,
it's
he
amazing.
was both in the same. He played it straight and he was dignified, but he was always like put upon. Yeah, he's just the best.
It was a very
absolute
funny.
best. And of course, his greatest role of all time, the Great Gazoo. Come on.
Was that who that was?
Yeah, he played in the original series.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the Great Gazoo.
Hello, Dum Dum.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hello, Dum Dums.
Right. I didn't realize that. Wow.
And he's in both of the live action movies, but not as the Great Gazoo. But anyway, in an Oscar-nominated performance, Madeline Kahn
Oh, yeah.
As-
she's so great.
as, do you remember her name? Lily Von Stupp.
Lily von Stupp, right. She tries to seduce Cleavon Little for Harvey Korman.
Right.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks is in this. Alex Karras is...
Oh, my God. Mungo! Mungo not gay.
Okay.
So funny.
Alex Karras, literally probably best known as the dad on
Webster.
Webster.
Yeah.
But...
And, of course, he was a famous football player before that. But
Now do the Mongo line. You can do it, even though it...
Mungo not gay?
No, doesn't he go like, Mongo go to jail for something like that? It's the one with like the rape twice.
Oh, no, that's not Mungo.
Oh, who's
The rape twice thing is like some guy, and they're all staying. All these bad people in line, and they're getting.
Oh yeah,
they're signing up to go do stuff to the town, and it's like, what are your qualifications? Rape, murder, arson, and rape. You said rape twice. I like rape. And then there's Mexican banditos come along. He's like, here are your badges. We don't need no stinking badges. Yeah, that's great.
John Hillerman, the great John Hillerman.
Who is that?
From Magnum P.I. He plays,
right.
He plays
He
Howard
plays Howard Johnson,
Howard
right.
Johnson.
Howard Johnson and his one flavor or something like that. Or
And George Firth, who was in
Is that
Cannonball Run as
that the
Mr. Foyt.
yeah, man. That
This whole show was just to get to that point right there. We would both go, Mr. Foyt.
I do remember that. He had the bow tie and everything. That was great.
And the great Dom DeLuise
Oh, of course.
is in this, which we can't tell you what he does because that's a surprise at the end. But he's in it. And Richard Pryor helped write the screenplay.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, Richard Pryor was a very genius.
and I've heard Mel Brooks say Richard Pryor. I mean, he helped write it, but it was like they would bounce things off of him. Like, is it okay to use the N-word this many times? And he was like, yes, it's okay there. It's not okay there, etc.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
And originally for the Gene Wilder role, they wanted Johnny Carson to play the role, which I
man.
think would have been awesome. I mean, it's great the way it is, but it would have been cool to.
Well, it would have definitely been a different movie. I mean, Johnny Carson was so great.
That is wild. You
Yeah.
said the N-word. That is wild. That is some wild stuff.
That's pretty funny.
It's crazy. They also wanted, Letterman auditioned for Airplane, for the
Really?
lead role in Airplane. That would have been
Wow,
wacky,
that would have
too.
been bizarre.
And then when I was typing up my notes here, I just started laughing because I was thinking of the henchman in the movie when they Harvey Korman sticks his head out the window, and the henchman is getting ready to like chop off someone's head,
yeah.
and I don't even remember what he says, but he's got that accent. He's like, "Can you fit someone in? Oh, I'm booked solid
right.
until Thursday."
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, it's like the Hunchback executioner.
What voice is he doing? What is that supposed to be? Like
can't
Igor
remember.
or something?
It's like
I simply couldn't fit anyone
I
in
think it is supposed to be Igor.
and then he
or something.
chops off a head. I hope you guys have seen the movie because we're just
Right, and then of course then when he goes to actually kill Cleavon Little at one point before he gets saved,
Right.
he says something like, "You're all equal in my eye." He's got a patch or
got a
something.
patch.
I just want you to know you're all equal in my eye.
Oh Lord, it's a great movie. It's essential. You need to see it.
Yeah.
And you need to show it to your kids at some point if they haven't seen it. And
Unedited.
They'll be absolutely shocked because but it's not. It's good. It's good stuff.
It's great.
We need to move on though. We got a lot of movies to cover in so little time. Young Frankenstein, 1974.
Another great movie.
It's a great movie. I'm gonna say I'm not a huge fan of it, only because I didn't see it as much as some of these other ones when I was a kid. Like I saw a lot of these other ones a lot, but Young Frankenstein, I did see it recently in the movie theater for a 40th anniversary screening. And Mel Brooks hosted it. I didn't see Mel Brooks in person. He was on screen. But he gets around great he was like 90 at the time.
90-something, yeah.
He's
That's
a
pretty
spry
amazing.
young feller.
Well,
Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn again, the great Marty Feldman, who pops up every once in a while.
Renfield or whatever he plays. Or
He's Igor.
Igor, right. Yeah.
Are you Igor? It's pronounced Igor.
Igor. And boy, did he have some eyes on him.
Yes, he had some Igors. What's the line?
He did.
You wouldn't... Oh, no, it's Frankenstein, not Frankenstein.
Right.
Oh, and it's pronounced Igor. Whatever. Boy, I hope you folks have seen these movies. Peter Boyle plays the monster.
Right, that's who I was. Peter Boyle. I was like, who is the name of the guy? Right, and he was a very famous. He's dead now. He's a very famous actor.
Yeah, Cloris Leachman. This is her first.
She's still kicking around, isn't she?
Yep. She's up there.
She's funny.
She plays. Do you remember her name? Some of these names are just like
I don't remember from that one.
Frau Blucher, and every time they say her name, a horse like whinnies in the background. They never explain it. Just
I don't know what
Frau
that
Blucher.
is. That's crazy.
The great Terry Garr.
Oh yeah, what happened to her?
Yeah,
well, she
I know.
fell off the planet.
Yep. She got old.
She used to be on David Letterman like every other week.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's in
She
so
showered
many...
once on Letterman. Do you remember that?
I do
She
not
took
remember.
a shower up in his office or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
wow, good memory.
That's so weird.
She was great. Where is she?
Yeah, what happened to her?
She was in something.
She's like completely disappeared.
Yeah, I think she was in Amy Schumer's movie, Trainwreck. Maybe I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Kenneth Mars again. He's the guy. He's like the colonel, and his arm is broken, and he has to he raises his arm, and he has to push his arm down. He's in a whole bunch of Mel Brooks movies.
Yeah,
he was the voice though later of King Triton in The Little Mermaid. So he's, has a special place in my heart.
I did not know that.
Gene Hackman has an uncredited cameo in Young Frankenstein as the blind man.
Oh, I don't remember that.
He just wanted to be in a Mel Brooks movie, and he was there on the set that day, so they threw him in and did that scene.
Oh, Gene Hackman.
Yeah,
he finds a way into every movie. Yeah.
Right, whether he's wanted or not.
Whether they wanted or not.
This was written by Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks.
Nice.
It's Gene Wilder's favorite movie that he made.
Really?
I also read that all the lab equipment in Frankenstein's laboratory is the actual equipment that was used in the old Bela Lugosi. Is that who played
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the old Bela Lugosi.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And also, the band Aerosmith took a break from recording and went and saw Young Frankenstein and liked the old joke, walk this way, and then he walks off kind of weird, and then they follow him walking weird, and they wrote a song called Walk This Way.
I never knew that. That's amazing.
Yes.
I do remember the line you're talking about.
Right. It's an old Marx Brothers gag, but they borrowed it. So
it's physical comedy.
Physical comedy, Young Frankenstein. It's in black and white, but it's a must-see also. Those are his two big, definitely must-sees. Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, although almost all of these are, and we have to race through them. Silent Movie, 1976. I love Silent Movie.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't seen it in so long I can't really remember much about it, but I do remember it being a very good movie.
It is a silent movie. Now, the thing is, he had to fight the studio to make Young Frankenstein in black and white. It's in black and white, 1974, which was a hard sell. Of course, it was a huge hit, so was Blazing Saddles, so then he could do whatever he wants. So then he's like, well, I'm making a silent movie, which I'm sure the studios were crazy.
They probably thought he was out of his mind. Didn't want him to make
a silent movie. And it's not completely silent. There's music, there's a score, there's sound effects. There's one word of dialogue in the whole movie. Do you remember who says the one word of dialogue?
Is it Burt Reynolds?
It's Marcel Marceau has the only line.
Oh, isn't that funny? Yeah, now you say that. Yeah, and of course that makes sense because he was a mime and... Yeah.
So it's about them trying to make a silent movie, and it's all done in like pantomime. There's title cards. There's some sound effects.
Yeah, I do remember it being an enjoyable movie. It's just been so long since I've seen it.
Mel Brooks, Marty Feldman, Dom DeLuise, Sid Caesar, the beautiful Bernadette Peters.
Right.
I have to say, when I was a kid, Bernadette Peters was like the biggest female star I could imagine because she was in the Silent Movie, The Jerk. Annie. Right. She was in Annie, and there was one. What else? There was one more movie she was in. Oh, and Heart Beeps with
with Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters playing robots.
Oh my goodness!
She was in so many great movies. Yeah.
How does that movie keep?
Was she in the Muppet movie? I don't think so. But anyway, and then also in the cast, Charlie Callis. You know Charlie Callis?
Sure. Hey, he gave Chevy Chase the winning lottery ticket.
No, that was Sid Caesar.
Oh, right.
In Vegas Vacation.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Henny Youngman, Burt Reynolds, Liza Minnelli, Anne Bancroft, Paul Newman, Marcel Marceau. It was Mel's first leading role. It's a great, great movie. You're going to have to hunt that one down, but it's worth it. It doesn't pop up on TV too much.
No, I hardly ever see it.
Number 6, High Anxiety, 1977.
Very funny movie.
Very, very funny movie. This is his Hitchcock parody, where he...
Right.
It's a parody and an homage at the same time.
Right. You could call it a paramage.
A paramage. You wouldn't say homage, would you?
No.
I don't know what that means.
Would you say an omedy?
Mel Brooks... I might. Mel Brooks, Madeline Kahn, Cloris Leachman.
Cloris Leachman was so good in that. Harvey
Korman.
Yeah, they were so great together.
And it's rated PG, and there's some dark.
It should be more like
it would be rated R now.
R. Yeah, I was gonna say R.
Some dark, kinky stuff in there.
Yeah, there's some little like BDSM stuff going on with them, and it's really funny. But I think one of my favorite parts of that is when Harvey Korman keeps putting the fake teeth in his mouth and like jumping behind, coming out from behind the guy who's like crazy,
right?
And he just keeps coming up like he's some kind of wolf man or something, and the guy's like, and every time it happens,
they lock him up, and
and no one ever sees Harvey Korman doing it, and it's just really funny.
Oh my goodness! So yeah, it's like a really. It almost is like a Hitchcock film. It's so well done, but
wasn't Ron Carey in that?
Ron,
is that his name?
No, I have it here.
The
somewhere.
one who took the picture in That High Anxiety. He took the picture.
Ron Moody.
Yeah,
he's in all these movies.
Right, because he was in the next one we're going to talk about. He was the agent, right? He was Comicus's agent. Yeah, Ron Moody. He was Ron something.
High Anxiety is a Mel Brooks Hitchcock parody. It is a forgotten film. You never hear anybody talk about it. It's not as loved as the others, but it is absolutely excellent.
Fantastic.
Excellent. If you ever see it playing or whatever, find it, watch it. Alfred Hitchcock saw it and approved of it.
Well, how do you like that?
Let's move on to History of the World Part 1, because that is probably one of our co-favorite films of all time.
It's definitely got to be one of my all-time favorite comic movies. And probably it would be a really tough decision for me personally to have to choose between Blazing Saddles and this one. History of the World.
Again, kind of falling through the cracks. You don't hear many people talk about it that much. It doesn't get quoted except for
it's
good
us.
To be a king.
Right.
Well, except for us,
It's good to be the king is a good one. But, there's so many great lines in that movie. And let's not forget that the great Orson Welles was narrating it. So that right there.
He got paid $5,000 a day to narrate it. And they did and Mel Brooks paid him out ahead of time for the week, and then he finished it all in one morning.
Wow,
and
that's
so
nuts.
He got the $25,000 without. Yeah.
Wow, and a case of Paul Masson wine. Go find that. Go look that
that's
up.
A reference. That's
Go
a good
look
reference.
that up.
And it's not really a sketch film, but it's kind of skits. It's some are
skits.
Longer than others. Or
it's skits that take place at different points in history, and it's really hysterical. And I think the French Revolution is one of my favorite periods.
In the movie.
Yes. Not in real life,
not a French history buff. No. Mel Brooks, Gregory Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Dom DeLuise.
Right, as
Caesar,
the Caesar, right? The king, the emperor.
And they go to Caesar's palace, and then they shoot. They're in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Madeline Kahn is in that scene. And then we got Harvey Korman, who's Count de Monet.
Oh, right.
Count the money, count the money.
De Monet.
Count de Monet. Is that the line? And then is that your favorite line right there?
My favorite line is said by the guy with him, Bernays. When he says, don't get saucy with me, Bernays. But Bernays says to him, they arrive at the palace and they get out and they're literally walking over top of poor people across some red carpet. And Bernays says to Harvey Korman, to de Monet, says, I don't like your cuffs. This is a period where men are wearing these long cuffs on their sleeves, right? I don't like your cuffs. I don't like your cuffs. A man's cuff should be even with the tip of his pee-pee. Yours are all the way down to your balls. And I mean, I just was sitting in the movie theater for the first time when I saw that and probably cried laughing for 10 minutes because that's just the funniest darn thing. And there's just so many great lines in that movie. Let us have Caldonia do her highly erotic temple dance in praise of Eros, and then Gregory Hines gets all excited.
And then Count de Monet, they're out playing. Are they playing like croquet or something out in the yard? In the palace.
They're having a big chess game.
Chess game. And then there's Latrine comes up. He's
the piss boy.
And he has a bucket.
Right. He carries around a bucket because this is, there's no indoor plumbing. This is 1700s France. So they have a gentleman who's the garçon de pisse, or the piss boy, who carries a bucket around for the royalty, and they need to relieve themselves. And it turns out he happens to look just like the king.
And then, et cetera, et cetera. It's good to be the king.
Oh, Majesty. You look like the piss boy. Oh, yeah? You look like a bucket of beep. There you go.
Did you say it?
I said beep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Leachman, Shecky Greene, Sid Caesar, Orson Welles.
Long list.
Charlie Callis. And, of course, a cameo by the great B. Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
Don't say her line. She works at the...
Did you BS today?
Right. I'm a philosopher.
She works at the unemployment.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Stand up
We
philosopher.
could talk about that for an hour and just quote it, but we need to move on because we have 5 minutes left now
Awesome.
to fit all these movies in. And then we get to... So that was 81, and then he doesn't make another movie until 87, Spaceballs. Now, you're probably... If you're really up on your Mel Brooks, you're thinking To Be or Not to Be. He actually didn't write or direct that. He's just in it, so that doesn't count.
Yeah,
And
I was aware of that.
Very good. Spaceballs, 1987.
Great movie.
I know this is blasphemous. I'm not a big fan. It's lazy.
Oh my
it's
God!
Lazy.
I'm sick. I'm sick.
I
What do you
know.
mean it's lazy?
Every time
It's got John Candy in it. For
it's
God's
a lazy
sake. As
target
a dog.
for a parody.
He's a dog.
In
Arf.
In
Barf or
1987, when that came out, and I was like 12 years old, I was like, a Star Wars parody? Really? That is so lazy. And it's
Fair enough.
I don't think it's very funny, but I'm sorry.
There's some funny things in it, though. And it has Dick Van Patten. So
Van Patten,
that
yes.
right there is worth every penny, because isn't 8 really enough?
And Jim J. Bullock is in it.
Jay Bullock.
Isn't he too close for comfort?
Yeah, well.
Rick Moranis. And did you know this blew my mind? Okay, Joan Rivers plays Dot Matrix,
the robot. Yeah.
But do you know who's inside the robot costume?
No, I don't.
Lorraine Yarnell.
Who?
Of Shields and Yarnell. Do you remember Shields and Yarnell? You don't remember Shields and Yarnell?
No,
They
is
were
that?
a mime act in the 70s. They were like on shows, and they would be like robots. So
I
they
have
would
no-
do...
Oh, I have to
They
look
were
that
like
up.
super famous in the
Wow,
70s.
I don't know who that is. Wow.
And now she's at a Dot Matrix. Nope. Now even my guest doesn't know the references I'm making.
that's-
Shields and Yarnell, people. They used to be like robots, and they would do things and whatever.
Yeah, I get it. They were like a, like a physical act. But also, if you need a lawyer, folks, call Shields and Yarnell.
Yarnell.
Right now, if you have problems, call Shields and Yarnell. Go ahead.
Do we race through the last three or jump to my stupid game? It's
Let's
a question.
I want the game. Let's do
All
the
right.
game.
The last three were Life Stinks, 1991.
Which no one's ever heard of.
Not very good. It's his only movie that's not a parody. And then you all are familiar with the last two. 1993's Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Good movie. Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle's first film. And then his final film was Dracula, Dead and Loving It, 1995.
Never heard of it.
With Leslie Nielsen as Dracula.
Dracula, right.
which is-
Now, I say I never heard of it, but then when we were talking about this right before the show, I realized when I looked it up that I had actually seen it. I just don't remember it. But Leslie Nielsen was very funny. So
He
it
was
had
good.
to be.
He was a little miscast in that. And they are in the library, and he says, do you have Nosferatu? And he says, yes, we have Nosferatu. We have Nosferatu today.
Oh, my.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
The dumbest game ever played on a podcast ever. Ever. Are you ready?
Dumbest game? Let's do it.
It's called, you got to be quick. We got a minute and a
my.
half left.
Oh, my.
It's called Rhymes with Mel Brooks.
Oh, my.
Are you ready?
Yes.
People who cook... Oh, I screwed it up right in the thing. The chefs for Satan.
Right. Cooks.
The chefs for Satan.
Lucifer's Cooks.
Rhymes with Mel
Oh,
Brooks.
Hell's Cooks.
You got it. Okay, now you got it.
Okay.
Hangers for ringing devices.
What?
Hangers for ringing devices. Rhymes with Mel Brooks.
Hangers for singing devices.
Ringing devices.
Ringing. Bells,
would you hang?
crooks, hooks, bells. What?
Bell hooks.
Bell hooks? Okay, wow, really?
If you want to read about noses,
You have to go to Smell Hooks.
read. Smell books.
Smell Books. Come on.
If you're playing chess in jail, you
Oh, my.
might use a
Rooks.
In jail?
A jail rooks? A jail rook?
cell rooks.
Cell. Oh my God! Where did you come up with?
I
this?
wrote this myself.
It's hysterical, actually.
A store that offers egg innards.
Oh my God! Yolks. Mel's
A
yolks.
store. Sell yolks. Sell yolks.
Sell yolks.
That's the
Okay.
dumbest
Oh,
thing
my.
ever.
How does that
folks.
rhyme with Brooks?
I don't know. Kevin, thank you so much for
It is
joining us
my
on the
pleasure.
shortened, very quick. It's 45 minutes, so it's not really short.
That's
It's
okay,
just
though.
so much fun. Folks, do
love
us a
it.
favor. Share us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. The biggest thing you can do is go to iTunes and rate, review, subscribe to the show. Kevin, anything you want to say in the last 30 seconds?
I just want to say thanks for having me here again in the WYFM studios, and I encourage you out there in podcast land to find your favorite movie.
Thank you, and thank you for listening. And as always, folks, it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams. So long.